I met this girl at camp and we got really close.
Great.
Practically like sisters. She was a lovely girl.
Lovely girl. All of a sudden you're so proper. Still biting those nails, I see.
Dad, you noticed.
He noticed. You've been biting them since you could chew.
But I've decided to stop, Dad. It's a horrid habit.
Lovely girl, horrid habit. What did I do, send you to summer camp or finish you in school? And why do you keep saying Dad at the end of every sentence?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was doing it, Dad. Sorry, Dad. Do you want to know why I keep saying Dad? The truth.
Because you missed your old man so much, right?
Exactly.
Do you feel like you have a good idea of what we're going to talk about? This feels like the most, I don't know, the stretch is the right word, but we're kind of happy going to stretch here a little bit.
This is our first, and the first of many fun episodes,
Yes.
I would say.
Yep.
Where this is a movie for kids.
Yep.
This was a remake of an old Disney classic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it to this movie.
Yeah.
It is very fun.
It's a
I
ton
do
of
love
fun.
this movie. Not a whole lot of real messaging that's easy to pick up on.
Well, and maybe I'll change your mind. I think I've got something good cooked up.
Well, that's great.
Lindsay Lohan, all-time performance.
All-time performance. It's funny to think she's a better actress when she was a kid than she is now.
It's so weird. It's like watching it for this, I feel like I was paying a little bit more attention. It's like even down to the details of like whenever she's supposed to be, it's like whenever the American version of her gets frazzled, her British accent gets worse.
She actually speaks French. To the best of my knowledge, unless it's just made up gibberish. But
Yeah.
sounds like French.
I know. She crushed it. This was the beginning of the Nancy Meyers era. This was her first directing gig.
Okay, and then what else did she do?
So before this, she had written, she was like a writing, directing duo with her husband. They, I think, split up maybe after Parent Trap, which is kind of ironic.
Shame.
But she wrote Father of the Bride, and then she went on to do like quite a few chick flicks. It's like Nancy Meyers is
Something's
like
Gotta
a style
Give,
of
The Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
My hot take is that everybody loves The Holiday, and I think it is not good.
I'm in on that take.
That is not good?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
No, Jack Black doesn't belong. And in general, it just doesn't feel like entertaining to me.
It's going to be a long time before we do an episode on The Holiday.
Yeah. Maybe if we're going for like 10 years and run out of movies. I'm a Nancy Meyers fan, though. My wife is a huge Nancy Meyers.
I have not really seen Something's Gotta Give. It's complicated. Those are both like rom-coms with older people, which is not seen. I do love Father of the Bride.
Yep. So good.
Yeah. She did all three of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does lots of good stuff.
Yeah. While we're on the subject of just the good in this movie, in little side quests, Chessie.
Yeah.
The actress who plays Chessie.
Yes.
She delivers maybe, I think, the most well-acted line in the movie, which is when she realizes that Hallie's actually Annie.
Yeah.
Jessie, I changed a lot over the summer, that's all.
Okay. Or if I didn't know any better, I'd say it's almost like you were... Forget it. It's impossible.
Almost as if I were who, Jessie?
Nobody. Forget I mentioned it.
Almost as if I were Annie?
You know about Annie?
I am Annie.
Hal, why did you take off on me like that? I told you I wanted to talk to you about something.
Jessie, why are you looking at her like that?
Like what? I'm not looking at her any special way. I'm looking at her like I've looked at her for 11 years. Since the day she came home from the hospital. 6 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches long. This is how I look at her. Can I hug her? Oh, she's so beautiful. And so big.
When I was watching that, I was like, those are pretty good acting tears. Like, she's crying.
She was a very likable character. She crushed it in that scene. And my thought watching that scene was, why is the nanny's emotional response the biggest of anybody? Like, mom, she finds out, she says, "You're Hallie?"
Yeah.
And then she kind of grabs
Kind
her,
of tear-filled eyes.
Yeah, puts her hand over her mouth. And then dad at the pool is like, both of them?
Yeah.
And that's it.
And he's not super shocked. Well, we should clarify, or we should say, this movie is, as a kid, didn't think anything of the plot.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, this is entertaining.
Mhm.
As an adult, you realize this is insane.
Yeah.
Just the idea of this story
Yeah.
is
It's messed
insane.
up.
If there's anyone out there who has ever actually done this, divorced and split twins and didn't tell them about each other,
Mhm.
you deserve to be in prison.
Yeah. That's cruel.
It's a cruel and crazy thing that they take a very lighthearted approach to in this
Yes.
movie, but would be insane
Yeah.
in real life.
This would not be an enjoyable movie if it was realistic.
Yeah, if this was a true story, it would be like one of those crime documentaries.
Yeah. Well, there is that one. Do you know about Three Identical Strangers?
Oh, yes.
Triplets
Yeah,
separated
true.
at birth. Didn't know about each other.
Yeah, that's a darker story than
Very dark.
Lohan.
Yeah, very, very
Disney
dark.
wants you to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I was going to say is Chessie delivers my favorite line, which is that line. And she also delivers what I think is the worst line in the movie, which is when she meets Martin.
I'm her butler.
Enchanté, mademoiselle.
Gee, the pleasure's all mine, monsieur.
Yeah, it fell flat. Chessie. What a name.
Chessie's great. Do you want to give the people, this is your pick, your movie?
This was my pick. From the pleadings of my wife, we chose this film. So if it's been a bit for you in The Parent Trap, here's a recap. The Parent Trap, a 1998 family comedy, follows identical twins, Annie and Hallie, who meet at summer camp and devise a plan to reunite their divorced parents, Nick and Elizabeth. The twins switch places, with Annie heading to California to reconnect with her father, while Hallie travels to London to bond with her mother. However, their scheme is complicated by Nick's fiancée, Meredith, whose presence creates tension in their plan. As the twins navigate their new environments, they begin to work tirelessly to ensure that their family can be made whole again. That's The Parent Trap.
That is the Parent Trap.
So I have a theory that I want to stress test with you here.
Okay.
So I was musing on this film yesterday. Okay. I think that this movie has secretly been this franchise. It's a single movie, but I think it's been secretly rebooted as a prequel, and we will get the sequel 12 years from when the movie came out. Okay.
Ooh.
So here's my theory. This movie, both the parents, each one has their own unique dream that doesn't necessarily align with each other. There's tension in the relationship. They separate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would advocate that this is the exact plot of La La Land. At the end of La La Land, spoilers for La La Land, we see that Emma Stone is presumably married with a kid, but maybe that is her fiance, and that is one of the sets of twins that Ryan Gosling has the other one at home whenever we see him playing piano. And in just a few years, they'll reconnect.
As soon as the kid's old enough to go to camp.
Yeah, once the kids go to camp, which, who knows, 2027 version, maybe they don't go to camp, they meet somewhere else. But if this isn't in the mind of anybody, I'm just throwing it out there. If Gosling hears this, just think about it.
Emma, come on. You know.
Do you see any holes in this?
Well, I feel like it does one kind of make you believe that she's married, that Emma Stone is married.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not said. I would need to give it a rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
But I know in this movie, in The Parent Trap, the girls talk about, has mom ever been serious with anyone?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, never. What about dad? Like, and if she was a little kid and had whether a boyfriend or a husband that she was like living with and raising a child with, it seems pretty serious.
Well, yes, but you got to consider the times, because 1998 and, modern day, 12 years after La La Land would be 2028, right? These days, nobody's meeting each other, getting engaged and getting married 3 months later. It just doesn't happen. Engagements are maybe a 5-year affair, could be more. So they've modernized it a little bit.
So are you saying that they would make then a new Parent Trap?
Then
that was a sequel
there
to
would
La
be a
La Land?
sequel to La La Land that is the Parent Trap of their kids. Trying to get them back together.
That would be awesome. If you could get Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone to come back for that. So
who wouldn't want it? Because here's the deal. Nobody liked that ending. Some people say that they like it because they want to pretend that they're more like artistic than they are. But everybody wanted them to be together at the end. Nobody wished that they didn't.
I'm one of the people who said I liked it.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
But this isn't a La La Land episode. This is a Parent Trap episode.
Okay, well, we'll save the rest of that conversation for the La La Land episode.
We'll talk more about La La Land. Yeah. But I do think you could do a Parent Trap sequel to La La Land.
Yes,
and that is you know what? I don't think that's an idea that anyone else has had. I bet that's a purely Kyle Chase original.
I don't know though, because just think about the genius of it. If they, because in the 1998 Parent Trap, they're together and they're separated within like 3 minutes. Think if they made you wait for 12 years in between that opening sequence and the rest of the movie.
That would build. I like that I said this is a purely your original idea to you, and you said think about the genius of it.
I meant it.
Just like, yes, of course, I'm very smart.
Yes. Oh, okay. So here's where I want to go with our Parent Trap conversation.
Okay.
So far with this podcast, we've kind of been breaking down specifically themes in the movies. And this is breaking down a theme, but it's probably better defined as this is the central conflict of the movie. The theme that we'll explore is reconciliation. The central conflict of the movie. Yes, it's the girl switching places. They're the main character, but it's really not their story. Like it is, but it isn't. The story is really about Nick and Elizabeth, their parents. Movie starts with their story. It ends with them getting back together. Yeah. It's really about them.
Yeah.
Right. For our listener there, what I would recommend as a companion read to this podcast and film would be Matt Chandler's The Explicit Gospel. We'll explore the idea of reconciliation specifically through what Matt Chandler calls the gospel in the air. So we're familiar with the gospel on the ground, as he calls it, which is God, man, Christ, and response. It's really the individual, how the gospel works with us as an individual. The gospel in the air is really like 30,000 foot view. This is what the gospel does. So kind of the framework for the gospel in the air is creation, fall, redemption, and consummation. So to put that differently, creation is the world is perfect. God makes it perfect. Sin enters the world through the fall. Man sins and the world becomes broken. Redemption, Jesus comes and we're able to be restored to that relationship that was broken with God. And then consummation, one day we're going to see Jesus again, and all will be made right, just as it was in the beginning in creation. So if you look at this movie, it starts, everything is perfect. Nick and Liz are together. They're happy. Within kind of the world of this movie, they would say they're the one, right? Mm-hmm. The one that they were made for, the one that's going to make them happy is the other person, right, in that relationship, right? Yeah. So we can take that. That's something that we would not believe to be true about another human relationship. But we can look at this movie as that's kind of the equivalent of our relationship to God, right? The one who's going to satisfy us, the one who's going to ultimately make us whole.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can take your other pursuits, the dreams of the career and everything else, and those things will be good and can be fun.
Yep.
But the one thing that these characters are waiting on is to be reunited.
Right.
And the one thing that we're waiting on that the world can't satisfy is that we're waiting to be reunited with God.
Yeah, exactly. So the opening scene, you got L is for the way.
This movie does have, I was thinking about this. This movie did, for our generation and beyond, really solidify a couple of songs as the perfect wedding songs.
Totally.
And I don't know, maybe older people already did that, and this movie was just old hat. But for our generation, it for sure took that song and
this will be
and solidified them as the wedding songs for everybody's wedding.
Yep. It's funny, listener, my wife Lexi is in the wedding industry, and the way that people have started to describe their style is like an Elizabeth James wedding, which is the mom in this.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Some people will say that. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Some people will say Nancy Meyers, those real film people.
Okay, but when has any of those Elizabeth James wedding gals ever put on a white top hat? Has that happened yet?
The funny part about that scene is she was considering the black top hat, which would have looked so terrible.
No, the funny thing about that scene is she's at home and they give her a call. The photographer gives her a call as like there's a work emergency. And she's like, but I'm off today. I'm at home. Okay, I have to come in. She brings Hallie, who's pretending to be Annie, with her. It's like, would you care if you came to work with me? And the emergency that they call her for is, hey, this veil is a little too long.
Yeah.
And she's like,
yes, I see the problem.
Yes, I see the problem. Let's put a whole top hat on her head so that this veil can be a couple inches higher.
Yeah.
And then let's take photos in this top hat and then take photos with the dress designer's daughter.
Yeah. Why is she in the photo?
Yeah, why did she start just like hugging her? You're like, you don't know
the
this
model.
Girl. Yeah. Total stranger.
Oh, gosh. It's just good. But it's pure.
It is pure. As a kid, you watch it and you go, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
Her mom's the coolest.
Yeah. In her words, my mom is too cool. So, in the beginning, all is perfect. We've got their wedding. They're going to be the ones to fill that empty space in the other person's soul, right?
Yeah. And you can kind of apply that also to Hallie and Annie.
Yeah.
That once they find their sister, it's completing for them.
Yeah, totally. Psalm, kind of to take that to kind of reality. Psalm 16:11 says, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." That's the vibe of that opening is, in your presence there is fullness of joy. And you see that they have that. And as we look at it from the gospel in the air, that would be kind of our equivalent to, we have complete access to God in the beginning creation. Adam has the relationship with God that would become impossible. And yet the fall happens.
Hmm.
Right. So in the movie, it's briefly talked about, but do we know what the conflict was that broke up the parents?
No, and they kind of gloss over it as a lot of romance movies do, where it's like they just completely downplay whatever conflict was there.
Yeah.
And they just act like it's in the past and it'll never happen again.
It feels like they're like, oh yeah, we had a spat, our tempers flared, but it was no big deal. Time was going to heal that, but yet they made the decision to never see each other again.
Yeah.
Like they moved heaven and earth to never see
We
each
were
other again.
upset enough to live in different countries and split our children and never talk again.
Right.
But then when they look into each other's eyes, it's like, oh, I don't even remember why we were upset at each other.
Yeah. And we'll be right back.
Hey, listener, I've got one word for you, storyteller. Now I've got another word for you. You ready? Comforter. Now let's put those together. What do you get? That's right, Lexi Chase Media. Lexi Chase Media offers wedding photography or videography to capture the biggest moments of your life. Lexi Chase Media actually shot my wedding, and I've got to say those photos came out phenomenal, made our day better, made our memories better, and we still look at them today. We had considered hiring Lexi's competition, and no kidding, we dodged a bullet. Talk about getting this marriage off on the right note. Lexi Chase Media is offering 10% off services in 2024 when you tell her that the Credits Boys sent you. So go ahead and reach out with the link in the show notes today.
All right, back to the show.
But I don't think they ever go into the details of what it was. They do briefly mention that they wanted different things, that, you know, she was wanting her design label and he was wanting his vineyard. But then the mom also mentions that he drove her crazy. That so it sounds like there was a bunch of fights that they kind of got on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't handle this. I mean, I haven't seen or heard from Nick Parker in over 11 years, and suddenly I'm flying halfway across the world to... I'm not mature enough for this. If the man didn't make me so nuts, I'd still be married to him. I mean, we came up with this arrangement so that we'd never have to see each other again. I mean, look at me, Martin. Have you ever seen me like this? Don't answer that.
The conflict is mutual, right? Like they both are deciding to go their separate ways. This would be a deviation from kind of the analogy that we're building.
Yeah.
Like, so I think for the sake of the conversation, there's going to be a little bit more to it if we say that Dennis Quaid's character Nick is representative of a man, and Elizabeth is representative of God and his relationship to God.
Yeah.
So Genesis 3 is where sin enters the world. God says, do not do this. Do not eat of the fruit. Adam and Eve eat the fruit. And then at that point, there is a gulf that separates them. Right. So in this film, there's a undisclosed conflict that happens. Maybe it has to do with the fact that they were seeking out their own kind of separate dreams and weren't quite totally satisfied with each other. We don't really know, but ultimately they go their separate ways, right? That paradise that existed is broken. And as a result of that, their children pay the price for that, right? Within that fallen state, you know, there's several years that pass. They both pursue their own kind of goals. He does the vineyard thing. She does the wedding dresses. Yeah. But Nick is still unsatisfied. And so he finds Meredith as an attempt to kind of patch that hole in his heart. Right. And Meredith is a really good example of what idolatry looks like. So Meredith, her first interaction with Annie, who's pretending to be Hallie at the time, she says, "He let me ride your horse." Essentially kind of subtext saying, I'm taking your place. Yeah. There can only be one of us here. Right. And then that at the end ultimately comes out whenever she says, you gotta pick. You have to pick. It's me or them. Right.
THEM, them.
So despite the fact that Nick knew he understood what was going to satisfy him, he still is trying out these other things as an attempt to satisfy himself.
Yeah. He, whether knowingly or not, Nick Parker is trying to fill what he's missing in his life with something else. And it's interesting that it came at a time when Hallie was gone. Because when Hallie was there, she was a reminder of the love that he had. She was a picture of that. He was able, like, you know, she mentioned that he had never had any serious girlfriends.
Neither one of our parents ever got married again. Has Dad ever been close to getting remarried? Never. He always says I'm the only girl in his life. Yeah, Mum's never come close either.
But when she's gone and he doesn't have that reminder in front of him, then he looked for it somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. C.S. Lewis in The Weight of Glory has a great quote for us here. He says, in reference to us understanding what will ultimately satisfy us, but settling regardless, he says, we're half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in his slum because we cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. So this is us. This is our current state as human beings in general, and specifically for those of us who have not come into relationship with Jesus, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly looking for the thing, whether it's popularity, whether it is fleeting pleasure, whether it is more money, ambition, whatever it is, the thing that we are seeking to satisfy us just never does.
And it seems like it will in the beginning.
Yeah.
For Nick Parker, it seems like he has another wife, another love. They just both happen to be blonde. She's beautiful. They're like, so it feels like, oh, okay, this is the thing that will be fulfilling. And for him, he just sees that as, you know, we're in love and want to get married. For us as the audience, you can see her intentions are to take his money and to get rid of his daughter and to treat Chessie like a servant and
Get the bell for her.
get the bell. You rang.
Yeah.
So we can see that she actually is not what he thinks it is.
Yeah.
He thinks she is.
Yep.
And that his life is not going to go the way that he thinks it's going to go.
Right.
But for him, he thinks that will be fulfilling, that's what he's missing, that, you know, that's what he needs.
Yeah.
The first change I make is to send that two-faced little brat off to boarding school in Timbuktu.
Oof, nice woman.
Proud of it, babe.
He still obviously really values his relationship with his daughter. Like, he takes her on the horse ride and wants her permission, essentially. He wants to know what she thinks about it.
He's blind to it.
Yeah, he doesn't understand what the consequences of this are. And it's implied, you know, Chessie is kind of onto it. She says, you know, there's about 1 million reasons why she's interested in him. And they're all sitting down at the Napa, you know, bank. And then whenever her parents arrive at the hotel, she says, he's everything that you wanted for your little girl plus millions more. So she's not interested in him. She's interested in his money.
Which the interesting part with that conversation to me was, like, as the parents who also, they seem like they're already rich, especially as, like, the dad, like, why was the dad, like, seemingly proud of his daughter for being a sugar baby, marrying someone for their money?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, you've got to think, obviously, I mean, this is a very silly movie, so I don't think it was fully thought through, but you've got to think that character's, like, it's a status thing, right? Like, he doesn't care about true love. He cares about the way he
Sure.
looks, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
ultimately care about his daughter. He cares about,
Yeah.
that-
He's thinking about all that wine he's going to get.
That's right. That special
Special label.
Yeah, special label.
The line that has stuck with me the most since childhood from this movie is, "You may call me Aunt Vicky." Just burned.
pet.
Oh, jeez. Burned in my mind as like the awful, creepy grandma.
Yeah, it's so bad. Oh, yes. There's only one throne of Nick's heart, right? Just like us. There's only one. You can't serve two masters. You can't have both.
Yeah.
You can't have Meredith and you can't have Elizabeth and therefore a whole family,
Yeah.
right? It's clear that Meredith's, maybe not her direct motivations, but the thing that she brings with her is disunity. And that's at least a red flag of, hey, this is maybe not going to be the thing that satisfies me.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, we know that's not how it ends. What you see happen is as we kind of move into from fall to redemption, there's the scene in the hotel where Nick sees Liz for the first time. He's got his hands all over Meredith, and then he sees her through the closing elevator, and he like takes his hands off of her and he leans, and his he can't take his eyes off of her. That's the first time he kind of sees her. Right. I think that can be kind of compared to the first thing you have to do is you have to look at Jesus, right? You have to encounter him in some way. Then he sees her at the pool. He's in the middle of talking to his in-laws. They're like, "How many can we expect from your side of the family?" He says, "I'm not sure at the moment." Kind of a double meaning of, I'm not sure what I want anymore at the moment.
Not sure about this whole wedding thing.
Right. And then he begins to move toward her. And he obviously, he falls in the pool, and it's a big ha-ha moment.
Yeah. Similar to kind of what we talked about earlier too, of when he lost sight of Elizabeth, when Hallie wasn't with him anymore and he didn't have that reminder in front of him. Makes me think of in Hebrews 12, it says, "Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Yeah. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart."
Yeah.
That keep your eyes on Jesus so that you don't lose heart, become weary, get distracted by other things, turn away. As long as Nick had Hallie as that reminder, he was happy to be with her. She came from, his one true love, Elizabeth. And then when he got distracted with Meredith, it's like eyes were taken off the true love. And then, like you said, when he sees her again, his eyes are refixed, and he's reminded of the love that he had. You can see the difference between the two women when he's looking at his one true love.
Right. Totally. I would also add, so just before the most famous verse in the Bible, John 3:16, there's a reference to kind of this obscure Old Testament story where essentially Cliff Notes version is there's these snakes that come and attack the Israelites, and they cry out to God to be healed. And so he has Moses raise up, I think, like a bronze, this big serpent statue. And what they would need to do is they would need to put their eyes on the statue in order to be healed. So all they need to do is raise their eyes upward, and that brings healing. So in John 3:14 says, "Just as Moses lifted up the snake in the wilderness, so the Son of Man must be lifted up, that everyone who believes may have eternal life in him. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." All right, so all that's needed is to just put your eyes on him. All we have to do is look at him, and we are naturally going to move toward him. We kind of talked about that a little bit with Iron Giant.
Yeah, the thing that you set your heart on is what you move towards.
Right. So, yeah, we see that with Nick when at the pool, and then he has his first kind of real encounter with her They have the conversation at the pool. You can see whenever Meredith comes up, he had completely forgotten about her. He was, getting lost in the conversation with Elizabeth. And then he's kind of like, oh,
Yeah, he kind of like snaps out of it. Of like, oh, I forgot you're still here.
Right. So at that point, he desires, we can assume, a relationship with Elizabeth. But now he's coming to terms with the fact that he has to choose. There's only one. There's only one throne for his heart. Who's he going to put there, Meredith or Elizabeth?
Yeah.
To say, in our context, is it going to be God, the one who will make us whole, or is it going to be anything else?
Yeah.
Right. So then he's forced to choose, and that kind of plays out through the camping trip.
Here's what's going on, buddy. The day we get married is the day I ship those brats off to Switzerland. Get the picture? It's me or them. Take your pick.
Yeah.
He sees kind of the fruit of Meredith and the destruction that she's bringing, of like, she's wanting to tear apart their family. She wants to ship the girls off. And then he ultimately makes his decision, like, I'm choosing Elizabeth.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a really interesting part when they're at the campfire and the girls have played all those tricks on her. And so Nick is kind of seeing how silly she is.
Yeah.
How silly Meredith is, with like her
hitting the sticks together.
And you can kind of see like he's being a little bit swayed. He's kind of laughing at it too. He's kind of being swayed to the daughter's side.
Yeah.
And then to get back at the daughter, she comes back and just plants a big old smooch on Nick.
Yep.
And you can kind of see his demeanor change when that happens. Like he's kind of, like now, back in love with Meredith. He kind of moves from, laughing at this and this is funny, to like desiring to be with Meredith.
Yeah.
And just an interesting metaphor in kind of continuing what we were talking about, where there's a when the thing that we're chasing after that we think will fulfill us gives us those glimpses, those moments, the kiss of, oh, this does feel good.
Yeah.
Oh, this is making me happy.
Yeah.
It can be hard to see how deceptive it really is. He was just laughing at her with the girls.
Yeah.
But as soon as she kissed him and he, feels the love again, then it's deceptive and can easily kind of sway you back. It's not just cut and dry like it is to the audience of, hey, she's the villain, Elizabeth is the hero. Like, should be an easy choice.
Right.
To him, he's having those feelings of like, oh, maybe this will satisfy.
Right.
This does feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to think, if they actually did end up together, Meredith and Nick, that's not a marriage that's going to last. Like, it kind of seems like she's there for the money, and then she's going to divorce him most likely and take, half his money. Right. But he doesn't see that. He doesn't understand that this isn't a long-term source of satisfaction
and
or even pleasure.
Just like you mentioned how you can see that her intent is destruction and separation. Like, she's coming to divide.
Yeah.
The other side of that is when he ends up with Elizabeth, things are made whole again. The girls get to be together. Chessie and Martin get together. The girls both get to have their grandfather.
Yep.
Like, everything is restored and unified when they're together, and everything is going to be separated and destroyed if he ends up with Meredith.
Yeah. And we see the moment that everything really changes whenever he goes to her. They chase after them. They have that very sweet moment where Hallie's sitting behind the newspaper.
It took us around 30 seconds after you guys left for us to realize we didn't want to lose you two again.
We?
I made the mistake of not coming after you once, Lizzie. I'm not going to do that again, no matter how brave you are.
And I suppose you just expect me to go weak at the knees and fall into your arms and cry hysterically and say, we'll just figure this whole thing out, a bicontinental relationship with our daughters being raised here and there, and you and I just picking up where we left off and growing old together and come on, Nick, what do you expect? To live happily ever after?
Yes. To all the above. Except you don't have to cry hysterically.
And so he makes the commitment of, I'm with you and I'm for you. And I think that's where the redemption really comes to be. And then the end, kind of the epilogue, their final marriage, that is our glimpse at things are made whole, things are perfect again.
Yeah.
That is our glimpse at the consummation of the gospel.
Yeah.
Right. In the end, all things will be made right for the church. Right.
The wedding feast.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the picture of what we have to look forward to.
Everything will be made right. Everything will be made whole again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you, I couldn't, within this metaphor, I think there's a few ways to go with what the girls represent. What would you say?
I would say that if we're taking, okay, Elizabeth is, for the sake of conversation, Elizabeth is God, and Nick is man, then the girls kind of represent also man, but other believers.
Yeah.
That when Nick is doing it alone, he's weaker than when he has the girls there, sort of as other believers. You can think of as your friends, as your family, your church body, your spouse, whatever, of other people to be able to remind you of the truth, to be able to kind of help you point your eyes back to Jesus. And so every point of this movie is the girls trying to get Nick and Elizabeth back together.
Yeah.
And so for our metaphor, they are set on bringing their life back together, like the girls' life. They want to be reunited, and they want Nick and Elizabeth to be reunited. And so their intent is like trying to help Nick see the truth, and Elizabeth too, but for the sake of the metaphor. And if you're getting upset about this metaphor and you're like, you shouldn't compare Elizabeth James to God, it's The Parent Trap. All right?
Lighten up a little bit.
Lighten up a little bit. This is an episode on The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
I mean, we're doing the best we can over here.
She was playing two girls as one actress.
Very well. I'd agree with that. That they kind of represent the church in a way. I think you could make the case that Hallie, who is gone to be with, God the Father, Elizabeth, listener, calm down. We can reference 1 John 2 that says, "But if anyone does sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous." So Jesus is our advocate to the Father. She's the first one to kind of tell mom, like, "Hey, we're going to see Dad." And she's like, he's a hunk. She's kind of, gassing him up, like, like getting her all excited about going and seeing him. And I think you could say that Annie, on the other hand, is with man trying to kind of encourage and discourage certain things. You could say that she's potentially the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. I hope Lindsay Lohan hears this.
Oh, can you imagine? I think she likes God now.
Really?
I don't know.
I think she's doing horrible Netflix rom-coms.
Well, yes. It can be both.
Yeah. I mean, this analogy is for sure a massive stretch.
Totally.
But I will say I did not think of it in this way, and it is a very cool way to view this movie. Yeah.
I would say that the other thing that didn't necessarily fit into the metaphor, but theme that's definitely present is the idea of gratitude, the way that both of them are entering into the life of the other person, that with things that they, take for granted. There's this scene where she says, for my whole life, well, for the past 8 weeks, I haven't been able to say Dad. And that's something that, the real Hallie never thought about. In London, she's experiencing her mom for the first time, and she's sniffing grandfather and like doing all these things that she's so grateful for the things that Annie has.
That she's been missing.
Annie could have been grateful for those things all along. Hallie could have been grateful for, Chessie and for her dad and for the horse and all the things that she thinks are amazing.
And don't forget Sammy, the dog.
I didn't forget. I won't forget.
Yeah. The real question is, in this analogy that we've been kind of going on, who are the Marvas?
Who's that?
they're the camp director ladies.
Marvas.
Morning, Marvas. Marvas.
Let's talk about the isolation cabin. First of all, where's the staff of this camp? Where have they been? There's 2 people who work here, and there's like probably 100 girls.
And clearly this cabin is on a hike. Hike way up.
They, as punishment, they take 2 girls, put them in a cabin by themselves. I don't understand.
Well, and also this is an 8-week camp, right? It's all summer.
Yeah.
And we can kind of assume that their feud was at the beginning, and then they spent the rest of the summer learning each other's lives.
Yeah.
So for getting in trouble, let's say it's week 2, they have to spend 6 weeks in this cabin separated from everyone else.
Yeah.
It's a crazy concept.
Like, what did they think was going to happen? There's the potential that
clearly
they
it worked.
cause harm
First
to
of
each
all,
other.
Let's give them some credit. It did work.
I need to just shut up about this movie.
But the other thing is, the conflict started because they looked like each other, I guess. They fence, and they're both good at fencing.
Yeah.
And then when they take off the mask, and they look like
Hallie's
each other.
a bad sport about it.
Why are they mad about that? Like, they instantly start this camp feud that's like, oh, I hate her because we look exactly alike.
Yeah.
Like, what's the grudge?
Well, Hallie was a bad loser.
Mm.
She was a bad loser, and then Annie got a little nasty about it.
Just said some hurtful things.
Let's just be honest. Conflict in this movie is not done well. This is just like the parents' conflict that ended their marriage. No one knows what it actually was. There's something to do with the hairdryer.
When Hallie lies to the family and runs off, Grandpa just takes her on a walk in the park. And all is well.
Yeah, sweet grandfather.
I love this movie. I want that grandfather to be my grandfather. He was awesome.
He was. Great pick, Lexi.
Thank you. Roll credits.